Alright, I'm going to do a install slash review, probably a couple video series of the EFI-500 Summit fuel injection kit. I got it on sale for $700. It's a carb replacement. It does not control timing. Supposedly can handle up to 500 horsepower, probably based off of the injectors in the CFMs. Comes in this nice packaging, really well packaged. It's actually a pretty neat little kit. So if we look in my engine bay, I actually just rebuilt this motor. It's a small block Chevy. It's a 350 bored over 40,000, so it's like a 357 now. Put some higher compression pistons in it, some nice aluminum heads, performer intake, a Lunati camshaft. It's like 214 degrees intake, 224 exhaust with about 450 lift. So I live in Colorado, and my elevation is a little over 5,000 feet. So I'm should be close to 350 horses if everything's running smooth on it. But replace just a stock 350 with this one, so it's going to be a vast improvement. Haven't started it up yet, but I've got almost everything completely buttoned back up in the engine bay. So there it is, mounted on there. It comes with almost everything you need. It does not come with carburetor bolts or studs. You have to source your own bolts. I just mounted my own bolts right there. So that's one thing it didn't come with that I think it probably should have. It also does not come with one of these threaded things for your air cleaner. The harnesses obviously included. That is the computer. It's rather small. I just used some self-tapping screws into the firewall there. The harness is pretty simple. Gives you plenty of space to mount it wherever you want, but it kind of wraps around and has break-offs for the O2 sensor, coolant temp sensor, and a few of the wires. The wiring is real simple. It just needs power to the battery, so I have it going right there to the battery. Just needs the ground cable, which I have to right there next to where my ground is for the battery. So that's your battery, that's your ground. The O2 sensor you have to weld into the exhaust. Best to do it on the exhaust header flange. Might not be able to see it very well with the lighting in here, but my O2 sensor is mounted right up in there, somewhat close to vertical. It does not come with a welded O2 sensor bung, which kind of annoyed me. Luckily I had one laying around because I built lots of stuff. It had this kind of goofy clamp style O2 sensor that you drill a hole and then you just kind of use hose clamps to clamp it down. I didn't want that. I wanted something a little bit better and more permanent, so I welded it in, but it's just a plug and play once you do that. The coolant temp sensor on a small block Chevy, I put it right there on the front of the intake. Everything is labeled CTS, coolant temp sensor. All these other wires are labeled. That makes the install very, very easy. The coolant temp sensor actually did come with an adapter so that you can use it on 1/2 inch NPT or 3/8 NPT. The 3/8 NPT is on the actual sensor itself, so you could tap into some of the spots on the heads. There's the stock coolant temp sensor for the gauge is right there on the head. You might not be able to see that very well if I get out of the lighting. Maybe there. It's right there. You can put it, each head has one on a small block Chevy, so you can use that without the adapter, or I had the free spot up here on the intake, so I use that. The harness terminates on all the sensors that go onto the throttle body. Injectors 1, 2, 3, and 4, they're labeled. Comes with an instruction book that is very well written and very easy to understand. uses what look like some standard GMN style sensors for the map sensor, the throttle position sensor that looks just like a Chevy one, and then the IAC sensor, which is on the back. One thing of note, it has a hookup just like a carburetor. I actually just took the little adapters off because since this is a 700R4, it has a TV cable and then obviously the throttle. So I just took those off of my old carburetor and put them onto, and just screwed them onto this, and it works just right. One thing of note, these fuel rails right here are dead flat with the mounting surface of the air cleaner. The stock air cleaner that was on this thing, the base is right here. It dips down, as you can see right there, kind of dips in and isn't perfectly flat. So this air cleaner didn't work. So you got to be aware of that. I actually stole the air cleaner off of my Camaro Dragster because it's more flat. See how you have more room right there? So be aware that depending on the type of carburetor you're replacing, you're going to have to get a new air cleaner if it doesn't fit. Other than that, it's all pretty simple. All you have to do is hook up the battery, hook up the ground, send a wire to the fuel pump, plug into the tach so that it recognizes all the RPM. You got to get something to your ignition. You could actually tie this into the ignition wire that goes to your tach because you want it to run anytime that the key is on. And then obviously this is an output to an electric fan. I obviously have a truck and I want a mechanical fan, but if you wanted an electric fan that actually turned on at a certain temperature, you could actually set in the computer when you want it to kick on and off. If you wanted like a pusher fan or accessory fan, something like that. So this is what I've got so far. One additional thing that's important to note with this swap is your vacuum port. So this is the front of the motor. Back of the motor, there's the distributor hole, but this is a carb plate, and then you have your vacuum port right here. Depending on the type of intake that you have, they can be close to or far away from the carburetor mount. There are several vacuum ports about right here on the throttle body, including sensor plugs and stuff like that, and this is big time in the way. So what I did is I just took an NPT plug. It's a 3/8 inch NPT, which is one of these size right here. That's what I believe is an 1/8. This is a 3/8 NPT. Obviously you have a bunch of different style of vacuum ports, but I just took one of those from my stash of NPT things and just plugged it, and I'm using all of my vacuum off of the ports in the throttle body itself. There's good instructions on the vacuum ports. There's a timed one on the front. There's a large and a small additional one on the front. There are two on the rear. I have my PCV valve going to the rear, and I have my my vacuum boosted brakes going to the rear as well. So really on this thing, since this is a basic non-emission vehicle, because I'm in an emission-free county, those are the only vacuum ports that I needed. But there are more. So the things that I've had to do to this thing to get it to fit is, I mean, since it was a different style carburetor I was doing, I had to get or replace the carburetor bolts, the threaded air cleaner shaft. I had to plug the vacuum port in the rear. I had to weld in my own O2 sensor. Those are the things that I had to do to this kit to get it to work that were not included in the kit. I just ordered my fuel hose, braided hose, and fuel pump and filters and all that. I already ripped out all the fuel lines, as you can tell. that can be kind of a bear of a job, so I just use bolt cutters and kind of cut them out because I hate hard lines personally. But here's my gas tank off this thing. There's 3 ports on it, which is nice because you have to do a return style fuel pressure regulator. So it'll suck fuel out of here, and then I'll have it return through the 5/16 hose, and then this is the breather. So next video will be how I design the fueling.